moving on though. LSU at Alabama. Uh, we both were on Alabama in this game. We both took a -3. Bama did not punt a single time.
This
Not
they
one
punted they
single.
punted they punted that first drive,
Oh, they did. Oh, yeah. Okay,
and then it was just an
but
absolute
then
offensive shootout after that.
it was an absolute. Yeah, it was a slaughtering. And you know what? Let's credit Tommy Reese. Let's credit Kevin Steele, guys that I wasn't necessarily super confident in going into the season. Kevin Steele has shown up these last couple weeks, making halftime adjustments, and Tommy
That's what it
Reese
is right there. Yep.
and Jalen Milroe. Look what happens when he uses legs. 4 rushing touchdowns for the kid. He had a good day passing the ball too. Like he made throws. He made some throws. But really the magic was in his feet. Right. 4
Well,
rushing touchdowns. What are you gonna say?
and you saw like I think this Bama team, like this team can beat Georgia. They have a real chance at beating Georgia. I'm not going to pick them. I don't think they should be favored. Absolutely not. They have a real chance to beat Georgia. This is a drastic different team than you saw in September. And credit that coaches have, like you said, Kevin Steele, Tommy Reese, Nick Saban. Credit Jalen Milroe, though. I thought so. LSU's game plan, you saw their safeties were playing way back, their corners, like they knew their weakness was in the secondary. They were not going to let Jalen know. They thought their only way to success was we're going to ride Jaden Daniels, pause, and then we're going to just make Jalen Monroe have to methodically move the ball down the field and make a mistake and try to get greedy. And he didn't. Credit Jalen Monroe. He took care of the football. Bama, other than that first drive, like they missed 2 field goals, which is crazy because records normally money. But they ran the ball well. They diced up receivers. They had some good RPO
You know
stuff
why I
and
think they
short
ran the
quick
ball well?
games.
Because I think Milroe is effective on the ground. And I think
well,
by using him, you start opening up the run game a little bit.
well, that's just it. Like now it's pick your poison. And now in terms of this offense of being like almost a liability, it's like, okay, do you want to defend the pass or do you want to defend the run? The problem is if you have a front 7, I think Mekhi Wingo really missed him in this game. Absolutely. Like talk about a run stuffer. Talk about not having to add extra bodies in the box. Like with Mekhi Wingo, like you can play 6, you can play a light box and have some success in the running game defensively. And today they had no chance to do that. And I thought LSU, like this game played out how I wanted it to. If you're a Bama fan, like this is how you wanted it to look. You knew it was not going to be a blowout. You knew you were not going to shut out Jaden Daniels, but you wanted to see progression from the defense. You wanted to see second half adjustments. You wanted to see physicality, which they played with, and oh boy, did they! And then
House Turner plays with a little physicality.
he does, which you haven't had in a while there. And then also like you want to be able to run the ball and Jalen Monroe to look good. And I thought all those happened. And like you have to really, really be excited about and they're November. As far as like Novembers go for Alabama, this has got to be one of the easiest Novembers I can remember in a long time. Right. Like
After the LSU
LSU.
game.
Yeah. And like, but this is also like this LSU team didn't really scare you. I mean, obviously, like you tell Alabama fans like now they're we weren't scared of LSU. Like they were, but at the same time, like this is not an elite LSU team.
Yeah. And Jaden Daniels, though, still played out of his mind, I thought. This is the same thing that happened like against Florida State, right? And people are going to point fingers. Actually, I don't think anyone now. I think in hindsight, people are thinking, like I think people understand, right? At Florida State, people pointed the finger at Jaden Daniels, which was wild, which was crazy that people were doing that. But then, well, you weren't pointing fingers in him that game. Yeah, you were
No, I
pointing
was
fingers.
not.
Like you thought at the beginning of the season, you were like, maybe like preseason, you were like, I don't know that he's gonna take that step, right? Turns out he did,
Yeah,
right? You weren't pooping on him after Florida State. I'm not saying you were. And this game, I don't think people are gonna be because I mean, 163 on the ground and a touchdown, 219 in the air, 2 touchdowns. I mean, the reason why that they were in this game, and what we saw Garrett Nussmeier come in, I mean, that didn't look all that much better, right? Malik Neighbors looked awesome. I was a little surprised that Brian Thomas didn't get involved there a little bit more in the pass game, but yeah, I'm sorry, Jaden Daniels. You did what you could, man. Dallas Turner got you pretty good with that shot right there.
I
Which,
hope he's all right.
yeah, I hope he's all right too. I'm not going to sit here and say that was a dirty hit. That I think that's a little bit not fair to say that was a dirty hit. Uh, say that Dallas Turner was not trying to get a good lick on a quarterback. You know, uh, I don't know that that's fair to say either. Right? We know Dallas Turner is trying to get his licks in on the quarterback, right?
That's what you
But
do. That's what you do. Like that's the problem. Like we talked about early in the year, Jaden Daniels, and like the reason why like at times we were scared to pick LSU is because like he runs just straight up and down, like just full, and
it's
normally
like
he takes big
erect.
he just fully erect and like normally he takes big shots in the open field when he's not dicing on people, but this time he actually stood in the pocket, was trying to deliver a throw, and just got buried. I mean, very very scary play. Obviously, like you don't want to see a head injury to a guy, especially the caliber of Jaden Daniels. But no, it was not dirty, like you mentioned. It was a football play. That's gonna happen. Like the quarterback, like it's gonna happen. You stand in the pocket, you're expecting to take a big hit. That
It was
just happens.
probably a penalty. It was probably a penalty.
And it was called a penalty. It was not targeting, but it
Yeah.
was roughing the passer, which it's the same thing, to be honest. Like Dallas Turner getting kicked out of that game would not have affected the game. The game was over by that point.
No. I mean, maybe the first half of the Kentucky game next week wouldn't have had an impact,
but it's regardless though.
I enjoyed watching this game though. There's a lot of action in this game.
I'm hearing that there's some rumblings about questioning Brian Kelly. Like what's that going? Do you believe that? Like have you changed your feelings on, like, you were an over 9.5 better for LSU?
No. Have you seen what is left of the secondary? And you're like, well, it was the roster that he built. It was like, yeah, he didn't. I mean, I guess, right? But Deuce Chestnut left the team. Denver Harris is now with the team. I mean, Cy Alexander gets hurt. Well, I don't know what you want. He saw a hole in the team and he went to the transfer portal to fix it, and it didn't work out. Boo hoo, right? He has a quarterback playing at a Heisman level, right? He's got wide receivers. He's got like 3 wide receivers that are going to get drafted very soon. He's got an offensive line, a young offensive line playing well. They're in these games against good teams. I'm sorry. 2 playoff caliber teams he's played this year. And, 3 if you count Ole Miss because they're still in it, I guess. For playoff. I wouldn't say that they're a playoff caliber team, but he's played 3 teams that have a shot at making the playoffs at this point in November and lost to all of those guys. But
all 3 on the road, or at least neutral site in Florida, right? Which is basically a home game for Florida
Jacksonville
State.
or whatever that was. Yeah. So I don't know. People are. How do you question Brian Kelly after what he did last year, and even in some of these games this year, pulling off magic, right? Just I don't know.
Last year they went 9-3 too. Like they got
what?
Like they were in a year where Alabama was down and they won the West, and I think that expedited expectations for them. And like that was not the reality of the case. Like they lost a close game against Ole Miss. They probably should have won, and they got beat by a Bama team playing really well, and they got beat by a top 5 team in Florida State. Like they are not a top 10 team this year, and they've lost to 3 top 10 teams. Like that, you should not knock a coach or a team because they lost a game to teams that are probably better than them on the road.
I agree.